Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sonictalk episode, what is it? 699. Feels like a kind of just on the cusp of some kind of milestone. 700 episodes of music technology talk and music production talk. I mean, who'd have thunk it that we'd actually got to this number already? It's astonishing, isn't it, really? Anyway, welcome one and all. I want to say hello to everybody. We've got our folks over in the chat rooms, in YouTube, in IRC, and in Facebook. We are streaming live to Facebook and to Twitch and to YouTube. Is that right? Yeah, I think that's right. Sorry, I keep forgetting. There's so many places it goes to. I want to say thank you to all of you folks for joining us. Big thank you to Andy, who's going to switch. We're trying this kind of somebody else switching so I can hopefully focus on being more present as a host rather than thinking about the technicalities. Though it didn't seem to change all that much because I'm thinking about the other stuff. But anyway, also want to say thanks to our friends over at Yuhi and also IZotope for continual support. It's lovely to have them on. We'll be hearing messages from them a little bit later. And in the meantime, well, we can join our friends. We've got it's not the busiest of news weeks, but we've got a fantastic panel of interesting people. So it won't matter. We could talk about, I don't know, wallpaper or something. Jamie Liddell, how are you? Are you well?
Nice segue. I'm well. Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. So, Jamie, this
isn't actually real. This is just...
Is it not?
I can put my hand right through it. It's just a projection. It's pretty, yeah. But then this is... I'm well. as you can see, I'm dealing with a wall of potential or distraction, depending on how you... how you feel that day.
That's new, right? Because you said you were you said what you were doing was actually going to be was working on a new studio setup and having more. So is this part of the new thing?
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I have said it on a Discord and stuff, but I've bought a Sale AM1, like a console that's being made at the moment, and basically the studio is going to be a lot smaller. There'll be no more wooden room. It will be sort of the upstairs of a building, and yeah, I kind of have based it around this console and this modular, so that it's kind of about all I can fit in there, to be honest. Well, that's not quite true, but it will be a slightly different mindset. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I can see it being built outside my room, outside my window right now. It's quite peculiar, actually. But yeah,
is this? Are you entering a kind of new creative phase? Are you kind of lining up your workspace to be able to do things somewhat differently, or are you heading for it? You kind of like, right, I'm going to get into it and start making stuff, because it's often a precursor, isn't it, to a big lot of creative output? Is when you kind of get your workspace just how you want it. So, right.
Well, yeah, it's a sort of all-in approach, I suppose. As you can see, it's like the modular has grown over years. I put it in a great case thanks to Brock at 2 Egris. He did the case for Andrew Wang and a few others that I kind of are familiar with. And this beautiful case sort of has, it's sort of, I don't know, it's already changed my room so much that I'm just kind of like, I'm ready for the next phase, I suppose. But yeah, we'll see.
Nice. Well, lovely to have you, Jamie, of course. I'm lovely. And of course, let's not forget the Hanging Out with Audiophiles podcast. I know that you'd had a bit of a hiatus, but you've done a couple more episodes since then, haven't you?
Yeah, and I figured I could just sort of tell people what's been going on with my album making, because that's, been taking up my time, hence haven't really had as much time for the pod. And yeah, talking about like the pros and cons, the ups and downs of the whole process, and try to be as honest as I can. But I've been, after I did that recording session of 2 days, trying to do this really extravagant thing with marimbas, cello, other percussionists, and accordion, 2 pianos in a room here. But I also had a quadraphonic sound stage in the room, and I was going to feed instruments back into the room. And look, it's got really bright.
Yeah, wow, the sun came out.
That's Nashville for you. The sun just came out for Sonicstate. I'm going to turn down the sun. Turn down the sun. But yeah, I moved straight from that crazy process, which kind of, to be honest, it had a lot of issues, and I didn't quite get control of the whole quad thing. But anyway, it was a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort to sort of try something that was, you know, a little bit sketchy. So I learned a pretty hard lesson there, but some of it was cool. And then I went straight on from that to do this masterclass, which is, you know, just available now. I really put a lot of time and energy into it. I tried to make it really me, like as much about my personal process and interest as I could. So it's not just another DAW exercise or whatever. I really kind of pulled out all the stops, and I did hydrophones, crazy spinning speakers, like all kinds of vocal production tricks, like loads and loads of personal stuff that's, you know, taken me 20 odd years to kind of work out which bits I like and everything. There's a little bit of binaural, and there's all sorts, you know.
Nice.
It's something I'm really proud of. So yeah, thanks for giving it a shout out.
No problem. Also, let's say hello to our friend. Well, we haven't seen Charles Chicky Reeves for a long time. He's been on a boat across the pond. Well, I am actually exaggerating. Of course, Charles Chicky Reeves, sound engineer, producer, artiste, now relocated. You were in London, now you're in New York. You've grown a beard. It's taken so long to get there. You've grown a beard.
I'm old, and I'm also in a very ambient room, so I apologize. I don't have my microphone. I don't have my camera. I'm on a laptop. All my gear, my studio, both consoles, all my instruments, synths, everything. It's all. It was all supposed to leave London the first week of December, but it just left today after 2 delays. Yeah, after two big delays. And originally it was supposed to get here January 3rd and about 2 weeks to clear customs. And now it's going to get here sometime in February and take about 3 weeks to clear customs. And so hopefully I'll have everything by March. So the only thing I brought with me, I brought my Machina Plus and because they're right here, my Machina Plus and my OP1.
Hey, it's a good job you haven't got any work to do, eh?
Yeah, I know, exactly. But the thing is, I learned an important lesson, which is never try to move during the busiest holiday season of the year during a pandemic. So don't ever try doing that. It was insane. Just even trying to get out of the country, get it out of the UK. The day that I was at Terminal 5, our flight was delayed by a few hours because someone decided to try to luggage check 2 live hand grenades. So they had to clear
Well, I'm glad they found them. I mean, that's the positive, right?
Oh, yeah. I was thinking, who tries to do that? Like, what are they thinking? So, you know, but here I am. I'm in New York. I'm in Port Washington, New York. So I'm on the outskirts. So I'm out, for anybody who knows the layout of New York, I'm out past Queens in the Great Gatsby sort of area. So we're Port Washington, Sands Point. And if I look at this room here is all windows. That's one of the reasons it's such an ambient for light too. But I can look out there and I can see the Empire State Building, which is nice. So, and then I'm just surrounded by trees here, which is gorgeous over here, really gorgeous.
Nice one.
I've got this big house, but no studio equipment, no furniture other than that cabinet that you see over there, which I just acquired, and everything else is just suitcases. That's all I've got. So.
Wow. Well, I'm sure it'll work out in the end. We've also got Mr. Dom Horgan, who is there in his studio, where he's been streaming up a real good one. I saw your show. Yeah, I saw you because you got the dreaded COVID, right? And now you're back. I did.
Yeah. Back you look this week, really. Boxing Day till now is a bit of a blur, but this week's is all back in action. But can I just say, if anyone's been affected by Jamie's appearance on this show already, the Modular Anonymous helpline is open to all 24 hours a day, and 0800 help me will get you the help that you need. Also 699 episodes. I just did the sum. It's 13 and a half years, assuming you never even missed one. And I know you missed not many, but a few on the way. So congratulations, 13 and a 2.5 years of Sonicstate
Gosh,
podcasts is just
some people will be thinking, what? Well, actually, the thing when you look at it, that each one roughly an hour, how long it would take you to listen to that many, it's astonishing, isn't it? So 600, yeah. So, but anyway, well, thank you, and thank you to all our guests and all our listeners for making it still, an actual thing. Because otherwise, without anybody on the other end, it would all be a bit pointless. Dom, of course, Mr. Wiggly does plugins and not only that, and apps and all sorts of stuff. I'm guessing if you've had a bit of downtime, you've probably not been working on so much of that. But I did notice that on your live stream on Mr. Wiggly, you had been working on your video setup, which looks really fancy now. I'm going to have to up my game again.
Because I only just kind of got out of bed. I had no guests, so it's like, well, call in and tell us your 2022, and I expected probably nothing. So I was ready to speak for an hour on what I was intending to do over the next year. And then we had about 12 people on screen at one stage. And I use StreamYard, which is a cloud service. It doesn't do as much as your system does, but that is one thing it seems to do. So that it all just kind of pops up online and everything's out there. Gaz popped up, Richard Hilton popped up. It was really good fun. So I really enjoyed it. Really good fun. And I kind of committed to a few things to do this year as part of my plan, which was, a few new plugins and some more streams and stuff. But check it out, mrwiggly.co.uk if you're interested. We do a Sunday stream every Sunday. I'm
desperately trying to do a quick lower third for you, Mr.
Oh, that's
Wiggly.
okay.
No, so it goes in the. Oh gosh, I know what's going to happen. I'll make a typo, and it'll just say something like wrong. So anyway, let's see if I can get that. MR Wiggly, yeah, it's like was it MR James? Who was the author that had an MR involved?
Yes, I
can't remember.
It was detective movies, I think, wasn't it? J.R. Hartley, maybe you're getting muddled up with fly fishing. Anyway,
where are you, Mr. Wiggly? Right, but there you go. You get a link in the show.
Thank you very much.
There you go. So thank you. God,
very, very kind.
Finally got that. Actually, I have more time to do this now because I don't have to worry about a lot of the other stuff. Although I'm still switching my own. Topics. There are topics, honestly, and the first one is it's this one, which is mylarmelodies.
Hi. Today is January the 17th, aka Blue Monday. And tell me now, how do you feel? I hope you feel as good as New Order did in 1983 when they released their seminal dance tune, Blue Monday. It's, of course, one of the best dance records ever made, the perfect marriage of northern melancholy combined with craftworky Donna Summery Italo-inspired.
Oh, he's mellifluous, isn't he? This was kind of an interesting thing. I mean, this was Mylar on the Blue Monday Choir, which I thought it was just a mellotron, but actually it sounds like it's kind of gone round the houses because he goes on to explain that actually it was a sample of a Kraftwerk record, Uranium, from 1997, into the emulator which they just bought. But that Kraftwerk sample came from an original orchestron, which was a precursor to the mellotron, I believe, or was it the Optigon? I don't know. I thought Jamie would probably know this because I know he's either got access to one or owns one. So perhaps you'd care to comment.
Yeah, I don't own one. My neighbour across the way, Rob Berger, who's an amazing musician, he's just got a new album out, actually. He toured with Laurie Anderson. Actually, the story he tells is that he used to go on the road with Laurie Anderson using the orchestron, which is, when you see it, you're like, first of all, it's in a massive flight. It's hugely heavy, this thing. It's a beauty, yeah. It's an optical disc playing machine, which means unlike a mellotron, there's no start point. Obviously with the tape, the tape rewinds to give you an attack. So you can have, for example, a piano with transients, but with a orchestron, it's just a circular disc. It's essentially like a locked groove on a record. And really, when you press a key, it's like it just engages a kind of a playhead, essentially, over the particular note that you're demanding from the record. Each key has its own piece of audio associated with it. It's a beautiful thing to see the records. They're just these wonderful.
Is it any better built than the Mattel one? Because the Mattel one looks like a Bontempi. It's like cheap plastic crap. Whereas the Orchestron, was the Orchestron a bit more built?
It's really robust, actually. Although when we were recording in the studio, the session that had the quadraphonic issues, he brought it, and it kind of developed it's a mechanical thing. The disc is literally spinning like a record, and it was squeaking like crazy. I mean, it had been doing that in my house as well. They're old and very rare. I think there's only 40 or so in existence currently, or something like that. A really crazy low number. They are they are prone to, age and sort of squeakiness, like we all are. But I mean, yeah, I think it just needed a drop of oil, to be honest. But I think getting the oil in there is really tricky. It's just a light. It's such a weird box. It's just it's quite a fearsome, it's quite a scary machine in a way. It just makes a whirring sound, and there's a light in there somehow. And but when you play the keys, it has like the Mellotron. It's really alive. It's a wonderful sound. Good God, it's an incredible sound. And every time you press a key, there's a sort of click, which is why it's quite hard to sample it, because the keys sort of, the onset of the key makes a specific kind of key press noise.
There it is. But
anyway, yeah, the Orchestron is a wonderful machine.
This is a video by Optigon.com. So that's probably, forget the name of the chap now. Gosh, that's a terrible forgetment. That looks like the actual Optigon. He was actually playing Kraftwerk Endless and Radioactivity and other things, which I can't actually play because of the way that the technical setup. But I just thought I'd throw that in there. It's a fascinating thing, isn't it? I mean, I mean, apart from let me switch my my face back on. This is getting. Andy must be going, what the hell's going on there? Why on earth haven't we got Nick on? So I just think. I mean, I find the Orchestron and the Optigon really fascinating. In many ways, more so than the Mellotrons, because there's less moving parts, and it seems like something that is you can print them on acetates. I think trying to remember what the name of the guy was called. What was his name? Gosh, it's P. Hicks. That's right. It's P. Hicks.
Yes.
I think who's got a lot of stuff.
He has
to
the
do with
tapes
that.
and stuff. Mm-hmm.
Ever played with one? Either of you, either Dom or Charles?
No, not at all.
But Jamie, what was that thing that you had in your studio? I think it was an episode of Sonictalk that I was on and you were on. We were going on about tape
That's the one.
That was it. Okay, yeah,
that's the Orchestron.
Yeah,
It was mounted. It's mounted in a sort of a flight case, which kind of some people did. So yeah, it's quite heavy duty. And it has a bunch of sounds. I sampled a bunch of them for the Patreons, and it was a lot of work actually, because it's a noisy beast as well. It's just a lot of. It's interesting because my wife basically, it really.
Sorry, that was keyword triggered. It wasn't me.
She never comes in. Yeah, she never comes into the room and it's like, "Ooh, that sounds amazing." But as soon as the Orchestron was here, she'd come in and go, "What's going on? What's that? What's that sound?" It just has this compelling tone.
How does the sound come out of it? It's not like a speaker or anything like that.
No.
I think it's got a speaker as well, hasn't it?
No speaker.
Okay. Right.
Maybe the domestic ones, the Optigons, possibly do.
Yeah, I think they did.
But yeah. But this is a professional unit, and although on the professional unit, the power switch says juice on it, which is always kind of a rush.
I mean, how can you resist something that has juice
Just
written on it?
throw juice on there. But, yeah, amazing unit. He really did his homework. He really did his homework on that piece, man. He did such a lovely job on it. And introduced the guy Vayco is actually. I'm gonna need to look at his mail. It was. David Van Koevering, who is and then the Van Koevering is the Vayco of the Vayco Orchestron. That's the brand name. It's actually this guy. There's a talk that Alex shared of him talking about all his inventions and everything. He's a fascinating guy. Bit of an unsung guy. Seems like he was responsible in some ways for the Mini Moog. So always learning new stuff. These YouTubers and people like Alex, man, he's doing an amazing job. The research was really serious on that piece.
And great to see his face on camera, because it's normally he's a set of disembodied hands doing the kind of. He's got the great gestures. The thing about this is it kind of opened up something a bit more interesting. Well, not a bit more interesting. How dare I even say that? Another thread, which was quite often when one because he goes on to deconstruct the entire Blue Monday thing, and you know, he has a go at making it out of sort of virtual instruments. But it always struck me as, you know, whenever you get to hear a multi-track of a recording that you thought you knew well, and then you hear the individual tracks, how they just, it's like, what? How come the drums had that much reverb on them? I don't remember that. You know, it's very strange how our perceptions do it. I don't know. I mean, Dom, have you done much remix work? You must have kind of had stuff coming in. Wait a minute.
Yeah, and also a lot of my work was with remixers as a session keyboard player, but basically the everything person, because you're the bloke who's taking maybe a DJ's ideas that he can't play or particularly describe sometimes, and turning them into reality. So, and a lot of my work was listening to stuff and working out what was going on, and not copying, but taking. Why does this vibe work? So back in a massive dance remix craziness, you know, where people were getting 20 grand a mix. I was working with Danny Rampling and Paul Oakenfold, and Paul is a very good music, if you like. Danny's just a vibe man, you know, and he couldn't say, right, listen to that shaker and the way that's working there against that kick drum, you know, the way it pushes on the second beat. It's none of that, you know, but he knows way more than me what happens if you stick a tune on and in front of, you know, 20,000 people, whether they're all going to walk off or whether they're actually going to go crazy. And you know, and I'm pretty sure you can't really DJ that well until you've done that. Put your record on and everyone wanders on. You go, okay, that's lesson one. But it was absolutely fascinating because he'd come in and say he put 3 tunes on and say this is a mix we're going to do, and this is what's working, and I can tell you which bits work, and it was really much of a feel. And funnily enough, the same with crikey, loads of people. Errol Brown from Hot Chocolate, who's just one of my amazing, sadly passed away now, an amazing guy.
Such groovy records.
I was really, really blessed to be stuck in the studio with me and him, trying to take some demos of his that he'd done and turn them into reality. You know, when he was, this would have been about 10 years before he passed away. And the publishers put us together. And I was just sort of standing there, I can't believe this guy's singing me songs. And I think I might have said it before, you know, he would sing me something and I'd go, there's not enough, you need an extra bar in there because it doesn't quite float around into, you know. And then I'm thinking, hang on a minute, I'm not telling this guy where he needs an extra bar. He's actually singing me something that works, you know. And so it would be a missing bar. There'd be 3 here and into the chorus, and it would be pure
I think
vibe.
they make for much more interesting arrangements.
It is. It's absolutely fascinating. And actually, to be honest, a lot of producers like Harding and Kerno that produced the 17 stuff and loads of stuff that I was involved with were spent as much time listening to tunes as they did making them, to be honest, you know, because a lot of the artists might be younger people, kind of new to the industry, and they'd go, yeah, I want this vibe, you know, I can't tell you what it is, but listen to these 2 tunes, this is what excites me. And to translate that into something that works for everybody, from the label through the management through the artist, is quite a tough chance. So, and you do find you can't really listen to music anymore without analysing it, you know. So I end up listening to the speech now, because the minute you put a tune on, I'll be going, oh, they actually use 2 different kick drum sounds there, or you know, it'll be just like pulling it apart.
Well,
but it is fascinating.
That's a valid point.
Yeah.
That's if I go back curse to tunes, of a profession, isn't it, to a degree?
Yeah. You just pull it apart and I can tell you everything. But if I go back to tunes I listened to when I was 14, then I wasn't breaking them down, like the stuff I used to listen to on my Walkman under the covers, you know. And now I listen to that now, it's like, wow, that doesn't sound like I expected it to, and it's exactly that emotion, you know.
The memory of often the memory.
Yeah,
quite often I also find that it's actually, God, that sounds way worse than I remember it.
Yeah, you know, in general, you know, but the colossal snare drum or the big hook that you remember was actually mixed so quietly. It was just such a brilliant hook that it leapt out at you, funny, you know. So
how strange.
So yeah,
Charles, I mean, the thing is, Charles, I mean, you know, you do a lot of mixed work. I mean, do you find you can enjoy music and switch off? I mean, is it harder? I mean, what atmosphere, what environment do you need to be in to enjoy the music without having your work ears plugged in?
Well, nowadays it's because I live in a place where I have to drive everywhere. In the car, that's the best place. Because I drive my daughter to school every day because trying to get her on the bus service here is very difficult. So it's about a 30-minute drive, and we listen to, like today, we were listening to Finley Quay. She's really getting into a lot of dub music, Renegade Soundwave, and early Grace Jones stuff, and she's really impressed that I worked with Grace Jones. So, speaking of which, what I, would like, we were talking about, I know I'm kind of going maybe off the question a bit, but the idea of like when you hear the raw tracks of something versus how it ends up being as a final mix, like some of the early Grace stuff I have multi-tracks of, or I have a lot of Bob Marley stuff. And then there's been stuff floating around like the Doobie Brothers and things like that you can probably find multi-tracks for. And when you listen to this stuff, you're like, wait, how did they pull such a fantastic
How did they pull that together?
Out of this?
This mess,
It's so much stuff sounds like a mess, especially like the Bob Marley stuff. But in the end, the end result is so good.
It's interesting. We had the remix. I've told this story before, I'm sure, but we had the multi-track of Casey and the Sunshine Band Get Down Tonight, 16-track master, 2-inch. And we did a remix of it. And I just remember the piano and stuff. Oh, yeah, we'll be able to use that. And it was literally, the piano was somebody with their foot on the sustain pedal in a room full of what sound like drummers drumming to a different track. With all this spill, and I was like, well, I can't use that. I had to use this crappy M1 piano instead, which was to this day makes me feel shame, although it was the sound of the time. Speaking of production and all of those things, we should probably just have a quick word from our friends over at IZotope and, of course, Prince Charles Alexander.
IZotope Producers Club is a one-of-a-kind membership for producers ready to take their tracks to the next level. Once you join, you'll gain access to powerhouse IZotope plugins and a curated selection of tools from our partners, such as Melodyne from Celemony. Plus, as long as you're a member, you'll get every future update to the IZotope plugins in your membership for no extra cost. We'll also regularly serve you new curated content like exclusive, inspiration-sparking sample packs and preset packs, and industry-leading training ranging from our own tutorials to vocal production lessons from the world-renowned Berklee Online, taught by Grammy-winning producer and engineer Prince Charles Alexander. With new content being added every month full of valuable production techniques, tips and tricks, and solutions to common production problems, becoming a member is an investment in your career that grows as you and your career do. For more information on IZotope Producers Club, head to izotope.com.
And we thank them very much for their continued support of the show. It's very much appreciated. Like I said, it was a bit slow on the news week. There's quite a lot of browser-based news, music in the browser. There was the Endless Acid Bangers. Did anyone? A quick show of hands. Did anyone actually look at the any of these browser ones? Because I'm wondering whether to go for both because it's quite complicated. Yes. Okay. So, which was Tahti or the Endless Acid Bangers? Perhaps more the exciting one for you guys. Tahti,
both different things, aren't they? But Tahti's more of a music.
All right, I'm going to throw this because this is I'll play this video because it's pretty impressive actually. So let's go. I will actually. This is the preamble. This is because I was trying to run it in the browser, but it kept crashing the browser on the cloud machine. So it's kind of like an Electron, almost like an Electron type machine. Just throw this out here. Well worth checking out. And it's a guy, a Finnish chap called Max JVH. You can render patterns to WAVs. The thing that I found really, really cool was being able to, if you take like the kick drum part, you can change the steps in real time and end up with these really interesting offbeats and then flip it all back. It's actually a very performative piece of equipment and runs in the browser. Astonishing, really, that it does. And you can load your own samples in it, bounce to, it's a really impressive piece of work, actually, because we do see these things come along from time to time. I have no idea how it was done. I'm going to come to you first, Don, because you might have an idea of how it was done, being into apps and things. But
yeah,
really,
the new audio. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I thought it sounded pretty good.
Yeah, I mean the new audio sort of integration within Chrome and the sort of HTML audio markup stuff is crazy, and there's quite a few people that are using browsers now to send MIDI commands as controllers to your instruments and stuff, because it does MIDI really nicely. So from a browser now you can at least see USB ports, and you can plug it into integrated software updates and all the rest of it. And audio is just a natural extension of that. Now you've got more memory involved that you can address from the browser, and it's turned in. Browsers have become kind of operating systems, which is what they were always meant to be. Ultimately, Chrome is an operating system, so it's just a front end onto its own little universe. And now computers are fast enough to do this kind of stuff. You can write some crazy good stuff, and it's not outrageous to put this stuff together. It's JavaScript in the background. There's some really good libraries that allow you to do this stuff, and it's very performant. I mean, the idea that you can do this and not notice the loop point, or not have kind of glitches involved as the processor goes off. This is usually the problem. This is why you have to build an app that says, okay, processor, I need you now. I don't want you to interrupt every time a mail comes in, or I don't want another program popping up and saying, I need a slice of that processor time. Hold off on that music for a bit. No one will notice, because music and video is very noticeable like that. And browsers have always been treated with disrespect, if you like. This browser window open is just as important as this one. So the kind of libraries and software and coding, the tools that you now have, can actually say, okay, no, I'm important. When I'm running, give me the kudos to not interrupt my playing, and you can finally do this kind of stuff. And I think
let me see if I can get this to actually play while I'm looking at it.
Yeah, go for it. I mean, it'd be great to start teaching this stuff in schools now as well. I'm looking at Lula May, my daughter, who's 10, and they are doing kind of mini programming already, and they can all touch type faster than I ever could at that age. And it's a great intro to how sound works. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. And there's many more to come. I couldn't see a way to load samples on that one, which was the only way. It's a minor kind of thing. But it's like it would make a brilliant Ableton plugin. So I've got a number of plugins that combined together do what this does, because the concept goes way beyond the browser. It's just a really nice instrument, as you said. It's very, very performant. So, yeah, full marks, and expect a lot more to come out for the browser over the next 2 or 3 years. It's going to be a phenomenal kind of development cycle for this.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at that stuff behind you, Jamie, and I'm thinking perhaps that's not the direction you're likely to be going in. But I'd imagine. I mean, the thing is you make a lot of sound libraries and a lot of sonics for sample packs as well. You've done all. So I mean, I can imagine maybe some of your stuff ending up in these engines so that other people can enjoy them without a wall of modular, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, it's hard for me. We're saying there's too much. I don't know. It says a man with too much behind him, but there's too much. In the computer, it just moves too fast. I really respect everyone in their endeavors, but it's hard for me to not get depressed somehow about software, because it just feels like the attention cycle is so small that. I don't know. How long will this really hold attention? I think it's great work and everything, but really,
I'd
rather teach my kid how to play the piano, to be quite honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get the amount of.
Like, I don't want them looking at a screen, really. I don't want them but that's just the way of now, isn't it? It's just hard for me to not get depressed about it, I suppose.
I think
it's an issue I'm having.
The interesting thing because the amount of work that goes in, somebody who develops a piece of software, the amount of depth that might be going to the thought of how it works. I wonder if there's a point where they perhaps realise that very few people will bother to learn it as an instrument and get as deep as what you're I think is what you're getting at. It sort of feels like there's a real deficit in sort of input and output and usage, which I can imagine would be a bit depressing after a while.
It's weird because, I mean, look, this modular behind me is a world of choices. Basically, when you're in a computer, you're in the same world. imagine each one of these as a plugin. Imagine, this is nothing compared to what you can have on a computer. So actually, we're all looking at this modular, whether we like it or not. Essentially, that's the current state of music now. So it's really like, how do you actually commit to something that's going to really work for you in the long term? Because I actually think it's so important to not always be on to, I mean, it's kind of the nature of this show. But I mean,
I know what you're saying.
To find your tools, to stick with them,
That's
and none of us do it, I don't think. None of us actually can live up to that. I mean, I totally don't. And I love software, but I mean, like Bitwig, for example, has been really intriguing me recently. And there's so many things that I've been trying to do in Macs that I do in Macs really badly, that Bitwig makes more elegant in its kind of own internal little modular world that it provides. And it's amazing. And they've done such a good job of it. But I'm not sure I'm going to dedicate the time that I need to learn that over the time I've invested in learning Macs. And that's the kind of conundrum we're in, isn't it? It's just like, how much time are you going to devote to a thing?
How many languages can I learn? Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, what's it all for? Just dabbling?
I mean, yeah, pretty much, I'd say. I'm completely on board with what you say. I mean, I used to be employed to time stretch and tune people's vocals. Part of my session keyboards job would be to sit there with racks of Akais and get paid a shed load of money to put people's things in tune and swinging back in vocals. And, because the artist, it was cheaper to do that than to get the artist back in to do some of that stuff, Now, when GarageBand came out and had a button that said, put the backing vocals in, you know what I mean? Then that was a whole part of my kind of thing. It was a boring bit
music
of my life.
Music got way better.
That disappeared. And exactly. Well,
it just improved music knowing. Yeah, it just showed that it was all shit in the beginning. Sorry. But yeah, I know what you mean.
But it was a tool. Do you know what I mean? It was a tool that you can choose to use. I shouldn't have been employed to do that stuff. This kind of is boring. And I knew what I wanted to be able to hear. I knew what needed to come out the other end. I just had the technical skills to do it. So I think anything that introduces people to music and a young kids coming in might look at that and it'll take them further. Clearly, you're not going to master your next album or use that on any particular thing. I mean, maybe you might, but it's another tool that someone might come across and use, and it might inspire them to go off and buy that rack of modular ones. You hear this.
Yeah, no, I know. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
But not being negative, but I heard a tune on Facebook a couple of days ago that was recorded on an iPad in GarageBand, I think, with a girl with amazing voice, put some BVs, pretty simple piano, with saying, any producers can help me. And I was like, this is a hit tune. This is amazing. And you wouldn't have even thought about getting it to this level, and I would never have heard it unless you bought your iPad and you found a little app and done it. And that's
you're so right. You're right, man. And that's Steve Lacy. He did something on the Kendrick album. He only used iRig on a broken iPhone. Do you know what I mean? And
you don't have to learn
power to him. No, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. It's a generational thing. I just sound old, basically.
Charles,
that's
if I could just come to you. So you've recently, essentially had all of your gear taken away. By the fact that it's in a, is there something? I mean, aside obviously your thoughts on this, because I'm interested in what you think. But are there things is there something very specific that you're missing more than anything else? Because we all have that kind of my desert island synth, but actually when you haven't got any of it, would it be different to what you might have said before you didn't have it available?
I like not having it available. I like not using a computer to make music, because I'm using the Machina Plus, and I'm not even connecting it to a computer. I'm using it as a standalone. And the OP1, I like those limitations. I was thinking about, Zappin Music had recommended a book to me called Can Music Make You Sick?, which was by Westminster Press, I think. And, and I was thinking about that book when you guys were talking about it, because talking about the gear and everything, because I think, I have a lot of gear. And I've got a lot of students even who have a lot of gear and all these plugins. And I think so many people are very focused on gear and not about writing songs, and I think writing songs is like, I'm just as guilty of it, and I get fascinated by some piece of gear, and next thing I know, I can crank out a bunch of tracks, but are they songs. Not really.
Well, not all of us are songwriters, though, are they? I mean, I myself, I used to write dreadful ditties about, teenage crushes, but I mean, I didn't write. I don't think I would call myself a songwriter in the same way that I would say Jamie or Don were.
Yeah, but I guess it's sort of like I think maybe touching on what Jamie's saying, which I very much agree with. This, it's like there's just this deluge of tools and things that make noise, and so many new languages to learn in, whether it's learning to program stuff in Macs or whatever. There's so many different things, and I just like. Yeah, I find it, honestly, I find it a little depressing. It's a little depressing.
Well, you should try my job. Sometimes I do feel like, another synth. Oh, goodness. Although I've just done the boutiques, the 2 new boutiques, the JD08, which is available now, our review.
And I was looking up the price of that and going, gosh, I got to get that. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And I've got
but the JX08 is nice as well. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, I should probably just mention also new patches from the Yuhi Metaphorium. In fact, I'm going to play this little segment, but also I'm going to be interviewing Urs, Victor and Howard Scar tomorrow, hopefully, for a sort of chat amongst sound designers who've just made this rather excellent set of patches for Yuhi's Hive 2.1. But also, anyway, I'll get onto that, but watch out for that as well. This is Yuhi Metaphorium, a 220 plus strong sound bank for Hive 2.1 that has been custom crafted over a period of 2 years by Howard Scar, Victor Weimer and also Urs Heckman himself. The bank was originally commissioned as a custom set for composer Johnny Kilmeck for the projects he had coming up, including a secret film. That film turned out to be The Matrix Resurrections. As Urs Heckman was one of the patch designers, features were added to Hive 2.1 to allow the creation of the new bank. Pretty cool. The soundbank is available via yuhi.com, priced at €39. Use the URL bit.ly/talkmeta. And we thank them for their support and encourage you to do check out that. It's actually, if you've got Hive, I was quite blown away by the level of synthesis you could get in what they say is a simplified and more straightforward synthesizer that they made. It's astonishing. So I've got this other one which I thought I'd throw this one in here because I think actually I like it. So let's do it. This is I happen to use the Akai MPK Mini 3. They've just updated it with some new features, and it is a very, very small MIDI controller, but actually really good. It's got a little audio interface. It's got programmable per channel knobs which do a number of different functions, and for a synth this size, for a keyboard controller this size, it's actually a lot of fees. 75 quid. Now this isn't kind of an ad for Akai, but I just thought it might be an interesting discussion about what people are using for micro tiny MIDI controllers, because we all need a little one to take with us. What is it that you reach for? And I'm going to get another one of these, I think, because I remember when they sent it back, I was thinking, I wish I'd kept that, and I probably should have. So maybe I'll come to you first, Jamie, because I'm curious what you use. I mean, because, you travel. I've seen, you say you can't make it because you're out. So do you take a kind of a composing rig with you, and what do you use for that sort of thing, if at all?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was just trying to do something the other day. I've got like a new pod that I'm on the brew with, and I don't know if we're doing that segment. Are we doing that segment about tools we found?
Oh, yeah, we could do that as well. Yeah, but
I don't know. I just felt like I was about to go into that. But
well, you can. That's fine.
Because I've got that like Arturia key step and everything. It's fine, but obviously it suffers from
one of those,
but it suffers from the ribbons, which are just a bit of a bane. I'd rather just have the physical wheels. Now, like a small keyboard that did it right for me was the DX100. The Yamaha DX100 has an amazing pitch wheel. It just feels awesome. Like the keys are small, but they feel really good. And like I just long for that to be honest. Because I remember, like, I had a Novation thing, and I just really hated it because they've got the squidgy old keys. You know, they've all got these horrible squidgy little keys, haven't they? The old Yamahas, the small keys, but they've got a nice tight little tack tack. You know, they've got the good action that you want. The sun keeps going down, and so yeah, I don't really have a keyboard. Yeah, no, I was going to talk about that. I was building is. I don't know if you guys saw the little piece. I think Soundgas went to interview Floating Points at his studio a while ago, and he was demonstrating his CS70 and basically a feature that it has to take the two sides of the synth, I think it's stereo, and like independently tune the oscillators that go to each side. So you can go an octave apart, but you can also go fifths apart. So it goes an octave and a fifth, and then it goes 2 octaves, and it goes 2 octaves and a fifth, and then 3 octaves. I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to have a quantized pitch bend? So instead of bending the full range, it actually steps up. Like, so I made something like that in Max, and it was pretty much, I couldn't quite do it in an evening. It was more work than I realized. So I found a little tool that is like a pitch quantizer. It's by a company called Heaps of Bleeps. Company. It's
what quantizes pitch bend values? So it quantizes.
Yeah, quantizes your pitch bend, so you can. And I've basically created that CS70 effect, so that you can. I attached it to like a Avid Artist mix because the faders push out pitch bend. So I kind of assign a couple of the pitch bend sliders to do the two sides of the synth, and it's really satisfying. It's deeply satisfying. It's not answering your question about small things, but Heaps of Bleeps. Heaps of Bleeps is the name of the Max company. A small keyboard's basically my answer is no. I don't really have one that I like. I just sort of take a really horrible little squidgy thing and make do with it.
It depends on what you need. If you're looking for a kind of actual, really playable thing, or whether you're looking for something utilitarian. I understand what you're saying about those. Yeah.
Touch OSC, big shout out to Touch OSC. I got really into it when I was doing this quad thing. I spent so long making this quad panner thing, which is actually really super nice and still really works well. And I got deeper and deeper and deeper into it and thought, oh man, if you can be bothered to kind of make this part of your workflow, it's really good. In fact, it's here on this crazy modular rig. I've got the whole thing going into a laptop, and that's controlled with Touch OSC, and it's just a beautiful thing. So if that's good, I'd say invest in Touch OSC.
This is it. This is the Heaps of Bleeps.
Yeah. They make great stuff. They make a really nice one that's also a poly voice splitter. There's a few poly voice splitters like the Polymer plugin, but their one is really good. That Voice Splitter Pro that you can see at the top there, that's nice. That allows you to essentially play polyphonically on a single MIDI channel and spray it out to multiple mono synths in your DAW or in real hardware land. And that would be really nice with this pitch bend thing, because then you could play a polyphonic patch, but then have two different pitch bends. You could have one pitch bend, but they would get quantized differently on the two receiving channels.
So slide guitar, you could make it almost like a more easily playable slide guitar patch. Yeah,
you just move through.
Pedal steel.
Yeah, it's kind of just having this stepped thing on high resolution, because obviously pitch bends are 14-bit send, so it's a nice.
That's an interesting.
It's a nice feel, and it was really good, really satisfying.
I've always thought that actually most MIDI controllers should have LFOs and envelopes in them that you can assign to controller values, and I don't know why nobody's done it. I mean, I know that interpolation could be a thing, but I'd rather have it. I mean, what's wrong with having it? Is it really that crappy? Because they put it in live, don't they? You can get these modulators and route them to anything. But anyway, yes, you didn't answer the question, but that's okay, because I'm pretty sure Charles.
I have a real problem with MIDI controllers. I want a good one. I really want a good one.
Right.
But I have never found one with good faders and good sliders. Still to this day, I've never found one, man.
Interesting.
I'm all
Charles,
ears. I want to know.
What do you reach for when you're moving around?
I always travel with. I travel with that and
push. Okay.
Ah, yeah. Now that is really good.
Every time. These both. I have a special case where I can actually packs down like this.
Nice.
And it goes in my suitcase or in my Peli case, which is opened up back there. But I never will pack it with stuff that's being shipped anywhere. I take it with me. Like I take it on planes, everything. I never leave without those two things. Yeah, the push is only if I'm going to be going on to Ableton, but most of the time I will stay on the OP1 as much as I possibly can because I love the limitations of it. I love the sound of it, and now you can use the OP1 as as an audio interface. So I just export the tracks easily, when I get to a laptop or something. I'm trying not to use a laptop. I'm trying not to use a computer as much as possible. I'm trying to just stay within devices.
Yeah, that seems fair.
But now this Machina Plus, that's kind of becoming a new thing for me to always carry around. So those three now go into the Peli case, which goes on the plane. So that's what it goes
it's
to.
interesting. That's good. I mean, I'm sort of asking what people use when they travel around, which obviously is it's not something we're doing a great deal of. I mean, when I come to you, Dom, I know you've been in, working from home, which is totally.
Yeah, I don't get out much, to be honest.
But what for me, I suppose the thing is I don't move around much either, but I need something small that I can put on the table and just pick up.
Exactly.
I've got that here. I've got a Keystep, which is okay, but I would like some controllers. I agree. It's not the best playing surface in the world, but it's one of. There are so many of those in the world, aren't there?
It's all or nothing for me. I kind of have to have a big keyboard because I'm a piano player originally. So if I'm going to play music, then it has to be a big keyboard. If I'm coding in my office, obviously you're coding plugins, you want to be able to play stuff to check them out. I've got a really tiny Akai. I think it's an LPK 25, which is literally 40 quid. I think it's the mini brother to these bigger ones, and in fact I probably upgrade it to some because it has very, very limited controllers on there, but it's great, and it's really good because it's got Bluetooth built in and it works off batteries. So if you're on holiday with an iPad, which is usually my music making tool, you can actually play reasonably into it. But other than that, I might have anything around that happens to have a couple of notes if I'm trying to program drums in or whatever, but I can't really do it. I've made a couple of tunes playing the keyboard piano on the Mac before, because you can call up, map the notes to it, and done some pretty incredible stuff. Actually, one tune in particular, I won't name it, but it was quite successful, and I did a almost mock guitar solo-y type thing on there. I managed to get it going. I can't believe how I did it, but yeah, it's kind of all or nothing. But I'd echo Jamie's comments about OSC. One thing I really told them controllers I still can't get is I want a mixing desk mapped to my Logic or Ableton desk with 4 or 5 effect sends, so I can do a dub mix into Logic with hardware, and everything you find has faders and maybe 2, 3 if you're lucky aux send mappable things. So the only way I got this PC12, which is the aux send bit of it, and I think that they do a slider version which could go here, but it's a very.
You said you need like an aux send that's like on knobs, right?
Yeah, exactly. So just imagine your old school desk. I got some faders, and then above the fader, I've got a pan control, and then I've got some aux sends that I just want to be able to fly in effects on the fly. And there isn't anything that's small enough and useful enough to do that at the moment. There's never enough aux sends. Constantly people aren't.
There's a fade port at 16, but I think you only have one dial on it. So.
Yeah, everything I've found. So it's a combo. You'd have to use 2, and they've ended up kind of writing stuff to try and do it. But that's the one thing I miss. You've got a tactile desk, and you're just flying in effects and playing the effects returns and feeding them back on themselves. You can't do that with with
I have
any
a very
of the kind
expensive
of
way that you can do it.
And it keeps the room warm as well. I understand as well. So.
No, well, because I have 2 consoles. I have the Valve console, but I also have a Digico S21 with a D2 rack, and you can program the Digico because it can be just a control surface, and I sometimes use it exactly as that. But the added advantage is you have 60 something mic preamps as well. So
wow.
So
not so necessary. I just 8 or 16 mini desk channels with aux sends that I can literally use as an instrument.
Well, that's quite that 8 aux or 5 or 6 aux is quite a lot to have. Yeah, a lot of aux. You're
looking at like the old Dre bank. Remember the old Dre bank?
Yeah.
Like the old Dirtford Dre bank.
More than
64 knobs.
Well, can you not does it not work with the live channel? Because like I said, the MQK, you've got 8 completely programmable knobs.
Yeah.
I think the difficulty is it has to be.
I
It would have to be sort of Mackie Huey or one of those things, because then it's got to know what it's controlling, and that's a dynamically assigned thing.
Yeah,
this is also hard,
different kettle of fish. It's the PC12 I showed with some sliders underneath, but it's I want to play the desk, and it's really hard in hardware, which is one big advantage to have a analog desk.
Yeah. Do you ever find that with a MIDI controller you can ever get the speed and response that you get in analog? Doesn't it always feel wrong? I've never ever muted a track, for example, and felt like, that muted dead on. It always kind of feels sludgy and weird. It's never right.
And 127 increments on a send ain't right. And if you use a plugin, an Echo plugin, and you feed it back on itself, it doesn't sound like hardware. If you feed a hardware,
I have a suggestion for you, Jamie. It's entirely possible that in the assignment of switches, what happens is the trigger point is the note off, not the note on. So if you think about that, you hit a button and then you pull off, that you're not getting it on the point at which you hit the knob. You're getting it, the action happening at the point where you take your hand off.
That's actually quite a good idea, isn't it? And I know that Beardy Man does that with his Touch OSC setup, where he uses the off to kind of be the trigger, which is smart, because then you can actually hold it, release.
And then let go. Right, yeah.
I tell you what, the Touch OSC has been one of the more responsive worlds. I mean, it is weird to get used to the idea of using a touchscreen, but when you watch Beardy Man do his thing, you're like, he's not holding him back at all, and he's doing all manner of stuff. It's way more powerful than the physical
It's the muscle memory stuff, because you don't know where your finger is. You don't know where your finger is on a surface. If you're feeling something and you go, there are three fingers under my finger.
Do you hear it?
But you might
should add one thing, though, about touch-offs.
Yeah.
One little just nightmare to avoid about touch-offs. So when I'd be setting up for a show, for example, I had a touch-offs thing that I had designed to control all the effect sends on the console. And it worked great. And then suddenly I'm in a room with 10,000 people who have mobile phones that are all trying to get on.
You've got to be
Wi-Fi
hard patched there, man.
Yeah. It's just like, make sure you're hard patched, because if you aren't, it will absolutely not work.
Never use Wi-Fi on stage ever. No, we did that with
or Bluetooth.
Oh, man.
Or Bluetooth. Oh my
Absolutely.
God. Bluetooth over MIDI, or MIDI over Bluetooth.
I had that happen. I did a Saatchi gallery thing in Cannes once, and it was like this big to-do, and I was playing with like a Kinect, and like was doing all these real-time visuals behind me and everything, and the guy who was developing the thing, God bless him, like he changed something at the last minute, and it was all streaming like wirelessly, and as soon as people came in the room, the same thing happened. I basically went out to stage like for 5 minutes in total darkness, and just was like, well, I guess I'm here doing my thing. And then they played some pre-recorded footage behind me, and I was just like, wow, man, I've had a couple of fails like with the tech, but that was a brutal one. That was so harsh. And like there was nothing, and it was all to do with wireless. You can't never use.
I was on a tour with
wireless
OMG, and we did like 3 days of rehearsals. I think we were at the Greek Theater or someplace like that. We were in situ doing rehearsals with OMD. Everything was going great, and then that very first show, like once the audience came in, I just saw everything just like grind to a halt. It's like, holy crap! So I
love saying it up with everything was going great.
Yeah.
I just love everything was going great.
And then
you just leave it at that. Just you'd have to carry on. Everything was going great. Fair play, man. We've all, but that's what you do, isn't it? Some mistakes are more expensive than others.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? You can't beat a power cut. I saw it was just one of those videos that spins past when you're sort of mindlessly thumbing through social media, and it was basically a guy who lived locally to some sort of outdoor party festival type thing, and it was across a lake, and there was a big sort of party, and they wouldn't let him in, and he was a resident. He thought, that's not really on, because it's it's just so he found the power cable, and there's just a picture of him like this. There's this cable, and then in the background is this massive, great kind of like field full of electric activity, and it just goes dunk, and it just goes. It's just gone, completely gone. That's the ultimate.
It's genius. It's genius.
Score.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
I mean, yeah, ouch. Well, it's been a such fun. I mean, there are so many topics that we could still go to. Actually, there was the other thing that I was going to ask: is anybody kind of found anything nifty that that they wanted to throw into the mix? I know, Jamie, you mentioned your masterclass, which I'm super, and you've done yours. I wonder if anybody else has anybody else had any kind of new bits and pieces. Chicks, you had your hand up. I'm assuming you might.
Yeah, I did. I don't want to sound like a show for the company, although I am getting to know the guys quite well. Who, from Korneff Audio, they have a new delay that's out, and it's really good. It sounds like a Benson Echo record. It's like the best of the emulations that I've heard, and I just want to say I love this thing. So I am using that quite a lot. And I use their talkback limiter.
Oh, okay. I'm just gonna throw this up here. I think I can put that in there. Let's just do that because last time we did this, didn't we break their website?
I think we did. Yeah. It's
I'm up for that.
It's the Wi-Fi.
So it's in beta right now, but everything they make is great. Everything they make is great.
There we go. And, it's that Korneff Audio, and I've posted the link in the URL. That does look nice. It looks like it looks like
they were everywhere in Berlin.
Were they? Are they German? Well, nice one.
They're nice. I remember Christian Vogel, my old bandmate, had one of those, and it was weird because I was like in that phase where I was like, Christian, we have to record onto this Neumann into the Apogee, and like he was like, why don't we record the vocals in here? And I was all really shirty about it, and I always think, why didn't I listen to him, man? That thing was so cool. But now there's a plugin of it.
Yeah, the two guys who run this company, they do such a great job making cool plugins. So I do recommend them.
Yeah.
So.
Nice.
Well, let's see if we can break their website again this week. We might get a discount or something if we want to buy the plugin. Dom, did you find anything that was exciting for you? I'm gonna
ibuprofen and paracetamol.
That's a top tip.
No, not really.
I don't know how many people know you can take ibuprofen and paracetamol if paracetamol or ibuprofen is not enough. Yeah, you just leapfrog.
Oh, you know what you can't get in the US? You can't get cocodamol over here.
No, I know. This is a shock.
You get a prescription for it. I was like, I should have bought so much of that and brought it with me, because you can't get it over here.
No, you're absolutely right. Things like Solpadeine and Nurofen, anything with codeine on it. I discovered this as well last time I was out there. I went down with a cold on the flight. This is a few years ago now. And they look at you as if you're some drug addict, because it's like that lean, that dank that all the hip hop guys drink. They take the cocodamol, they take the codeine. Anyway, let's not get into that. It's
Anyway, your tip for the week, apart from how to extract codeine from legal tablets in the UK.
Oh, that's great.
I'm sorry, I said that out loud. No, literally, I've had a few favourites on the last couple of times I've been on, and I've actually run out of favourite things because I haven't been in the studio.
That's
so
fine.
I will save one up for my next appearance.
I'm just trying to find something else that we're yes, I got a Stream Deck XL, and I'm going to start using this in the Switch as well. But we'll see how that goes. But I'm trying to think what
does the XL bit do.
It's just bloody massive. So it's that big.
Right.
It's that many buttons. And there's here's a top tip: if you use any form of Stream Deck and you're running out of buttons, you can set an action now. If you use something called Bitfocus Companion, which is like a little server that will communicate directly with this, you can create shift buttons. So you just go shift, and then your entire panel could change. It can flip to another page, and then you just go quickly. There we go, and then out again. So you can actually introduce shift. It's interesting when you start using a Stream Deck. You start thinking about how you design UIs and GUIs, because you think, well, actually, if I put that there, then my thumb, that needs to be on this side, because then my thumb isn't covering the buttons I need, and I can see. But it's I've noticed this, this one I can do that. So you just go, here's all the buttons I need for like right now, and then I press shift, and then suddenly it's like, okay, that's mute for all the, that's pretty cool. They're fantastic. They're a bit pricey.
You get lost in folders of buttons, don't you? And then to get back to the front page and stuff, it's a bit of a pain.
It can be, yeah. Whereas if you just do shift, so that's only on momentary press, then it also jumps back to the page you were on. Then you're
nice.
Let me find this thing, a Bitfocus Companion. It's a real. If you've got one of these things,
that's good.
Bitfocus is it's what's really interesting about Bitfocus is it works with loads of stuff. It's not just companion. I'll put that in there. That's in the show notes. If I put this in here, then we can do this. Let me just throw that in there, and I can. Oh gosh, it's probably going to ask about cookies. Yeah, cookies. Don't need cookies. This is the one. Bitfocus companion. That's what you're looking for. That's my top tip for this week.
Yeah,
well,
nice
folks,
one, man.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us, and thank you for thanks to Andy for switching. I think it's been pretty good. I mean, it feels like it. Now we'll just see whether it recorded. Because this, like I might have mentioned this earlier, this whole show was running in the cloud. You know, I'm dialing in like a caller that you are. The software is in a data center and we're just running remote desktops, and our Akai controllers, which work over the interwebs. It's absolutely bloody awesome. But anyway, that's it for this week. Thank you, folks. I look forward to hearing more from you. Jamie, I hope you enjoy the fruits of your redesign. It looks like you're starting to patch.
Yeah. It's been it was overwhelming to put it in. It's like a lot more like it was more intense than I'd imagined, but I'm starting to really dream with it now. It's good fun. Excellent.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. Lovely to have you in, and congratulations on 10 years in the States. It's quite a milestone for you, right?
Yeah. I think it might be a bit longer, to be honest. But I know we were having this thing because I was saying I was down with being on the show. And then I realized, oh man, I've been outside of England since 2000. So that's quite weird. I was in Berlin for 8 years and then... Yeah,
just a little less time than we've been running the show. That puts things into perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's why I'm like all moaning about software, like
But Jamie, lovely to have you,
great to be on. Thanks,
thank you for joining us, of course. And Charles Chicky Reeves, I hope your New York adventure ceases to be an adventure soon and settles down into regular life, and then you can get back to work.
Yeah, got a lot of building work to do. I'm going to be building some stud walls and a new ceiling, and floating a room, and that's going to take a little while. Then all my stuff will finally show up, and then I'll be good to go. Yay!
Wow. So this is it. This is a sort of you've gone for a. This sounds like quite a permanent move. Then you've left the building, as it were.
Yeah, bought the house, bought a car, sent my daughter to school near
it's getting
here.
Serious.
It's just there's a lot more stuff going for me over here. So it's good to be back in the States, But I'm a dual citizen, so I can always go back to the UK if I want. But
nice.
I do like New York a lot.
I'd leave it a bit if I was you. Things aren't looking too hot.
That's true.
Just me and Dom left in the country, doing Sonic Talk. All the other guests and all the viewers will be somewhere else completely. Speaking of Dom, thank you for joining us. Also, Dom, MrWiggly.co.uk. You got a show on Sunday? I'm gonna come on the show. I'm gonna come on.
Come on. Please do come on. Yeah, even Gaz popped up on Sunday, which was brilliant to see. Richard Hilton's been on a couple of times. It's amazing. It's just nice to see another side of what's going on. So you'll be very, very welcome. But yeah, check out MrWiggly.co.uk and jump on our streams on Sunday. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, real pleasure to be here.
Right. You're welcome, and thank you very much. That's it for this week. If I go to the 4 up, then we can all say goodbye, and I can do the whatever it's called. Hold on. I need to find my actual buttons. Yeah, there we go. Buttons, there we go. Thank you very much for watching. That's it for this week. Don't forget, if you're a Patreon supporter and you managed to get in, or you joined us before the end of the show at our upper level, your name will appear here. That's it for now. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.